Welcome, my friends, to the Quantum Shamans presented by Moshe, the Ministry of Shamanic Healing and Integration, bringing you insights into the spiritual secrets of the mind and the universe around you. We are here to help you on your spiritual journey and path of healing. And now your hosts, David and Anthony.
Welcome to Quantum Shamans presented by Moshe. I'm Anthony.
And I'm David.
And we're here today with Jennifer Anderson. Welcome.
Welcome, John.
We're so glad you're here and can't wait to hear what kind of beautiful medicine, stories, and information come through you today. We're so excited. But before we get started, David, could you please recite, I didn't say read, because you're going to recite.
Yep.
You're going to recite the Moshe vision statement.
Absolutely. The Ministry of Shamanic Healing aims to help individuals heal from spiritual maladies stored as energy in the subconscious that manifest in the form of trauma, PTSD, physical illness, mental health issues, and addiction. These practices include but are not limited to yoga, breathwork, meditation and mindfulness practices, Reiki, sweat lodge ceremonies, sensory deprivation, sacred plants, and any other rituals we collectively decide to establish. We hold group ritual ceremonies for our community to heal collectively in a safe space, as well as individual ritual healing tailored to the members of our collective for the purpose of intensive inner work. Our most important responsibility is to help our members integrate their individual and collective experiences in order to ameliorate their spiritual maladies and spread love for the betterment of mankind. Our belief is that our collective consciousness is God. Every living organism has a purpose and is essential for homeostasis. From the single-cell organisms to the observable universe, we are all connected and equally important. We all deserve love, respect, peace, harmony, and forgiveness. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. Love conquers all.
Love conquers all. Indeed. Welcome. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm feeling really good today.
Good. We're glad that you're here with us.
I am too.
We're excited to have you here. I was excited when you said you want to come on and be on the show and talk.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
We love to hear. You're a very interesting being to me, especially since we have like Norse connections energetically. I could feel that right away, and I found that to be very awesome, very great. Tell us about yourself. Tell us, who is Jen Anderson?
Jen Anderson is, goodness, very old.
Your
soul.
goodness, yeah, I see
very
that.
old soul. I do acting for fun right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to do that professionally at some point, and I have been paid to act sometimes. But for now, it's for fun. My full-time job, I work for a nuclear pharmaceutical company called Sophie, and I am just ending delivering for them, and I will be moving over to production of nuclear medications, which is really cool.
Very cool.
These medications are used in PET scanners to find out where the cancer's hiding in somebody's body, essentially.
They're illuminating.
Yes. So that's and then for my fun hobby, which is a hobby of hobbies, is the Society for Creative Anachronism. And I've gotten involved in Jomsborg Vikings. So they're both historic. Society for Creative Anachronism is more recreating the Middle Ages, and Jomsborg Vikings is more living history. So I get to be Norse all the time.
I get to be Norse.
Do you play the same character every time, or do you change it up?
So it's not role playing that we do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in the Society for Creative Anachronism, the guidelines are pre-1600, 1650. So you can be anything from anywhere prior to that. Mostly European, Asian, and Northern African. With the Jomsborg Vikings, it's very specific to the Viking age and the areas that they would have been involved in. So you're looking at, like the Scotland, England, Irish end of the Vikings where they had settled, Norway, Sweden, Germany, the Rus, that sort of thing. So, but it's such a very specific time period location for that group.
Mm-hmm.
So you just create your own character for that, as long as it's true to the period?
In the SCA, sort of. So I have a name in the SCA. It's Gudrun Andersdotter. Yeah. And in the Jomsborg, we don't have Viking names. We just use our modern names. So it's not really a persona. We're more like, we like this history. We're trying to produce living history. So we research and make these clothes and try to have it be as close to what they have found in archaeological digs as possible, and the equipment we use. They fight with metal weapons. And they have a couple different fighting styles. Some are very light touch, and some are more heavy, where you have to wear more armor. I do fiber arts as part of both groups. Actually, I do fiber arts. I do what's called null binding. So that's my hobby within my hobby.
What is that?
Null binding it's like kind of like knitting or crocheting, but not. It's if you want to look it up, it's NALEBINDING, null binding. You can find a million YouTube videos on that to see what it looks like. But it looks like knit stuff when you're done with it. So I've made hats and mittens and socks. I'm currently, I put it away at the beginning of COVID. I just wasn't inspired to do anything. And then I recently was like, okay, I'm getting inspired to create again. I need to make something. And so I pulled it out. And then I looked at it and went, I forgot how to do it. So I had to go and look up some videos to remind myself how to do the null binding, because I hadn't touched it in like 3 years. And so then I decided I had a big ball of yarn. It was hand spun too, and it was very finely spun. And I was looking and I was doing the usual stitch that I do, the Oslo stitch. And it wasn't working out well with this particular weight of yarn. So I looked at different types of stitches, and I'm like, so who does this? Where they have to reteach themselves how to do something, and instead of doing the easy stitch, they're like, no, I will take one of the most complicated stitches that's out there, and I will do that. That would be me. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm working on right now, is a pair of socks.
Yeah, I like a challenge as well.
Yeah.
Challenges are necessary for growth. Yes. Very good. How did you get into this? How did this start for you? Your connection to like these Norse connections?
So specifically with the Norse, it was with an ex-boyfriend of mine. Mm-hmm. So I had been in the SCA since 1991, and I knew right around that time I'd start delving into paganism. But I was leaning more Celtic, but I hadn't really defined my paganism. It was just like, oh, this god and goddess are very helpful for these things, and I can be like, do. So I was just kind of floating around in the pagan world, just feeling it out, figuring things out. And I really like the Celtic stuff because I really love Ireland. I still love Ireland. And, one of these days I will visit Ireland. Mm-hmm. And it was when I was dating this particular man who he is Norse as well. And he's totally also true. He very, very deep in his practice. He's a Gothi. And so being with him, and I spend so much time with him, all of a sudden I started noticing that these Norse gods and goddesses were really kind of like knocking on my door, and letting me know that they were there and they were there for me. And then, and so I'd already, I was like, I think I'm Norse. I think that that's my calling, that's where I need to go. When we broke up, it was necessary. It was pretty much mutual between us. We realized it wasn't going to work out for us for a variety of reasons. But it was very heartbroken, as you are. in a breakup, and I was going through some things. This was during the recession. I didn't have a job at that time, so I had that also complicating things where I'm not feeling very worthy, and nobody has jobs, right? You know, so it wasn't going to very easily find something either. And so I remember having this vision, and I'm trying to think, I can't remember if I had my Reiki attunement at this time, or if it was before or after. It was like right around the time that I had my Reiki attunement. So probably before I had my Reiki attunement. And I'm just sitting there and just being a blob. Like I had a routine where I would get up in the morning and I would go work out, and then I would go to the library and look for work, and then I would come home. And then I had no routine for the rest of the day. So I was just lying in bed going, as you do when you're kind of depressed and everything. And then all of a sudden I had this vision. And in this vision, this man comes up and he throws a spear. And at the same time that I'm experiencing that, I'm watching it. So it was like I was in two places at once, right? And I saw the spear go through my heart, and I felt it go through my heart, which jolted me into alertness immediately. And then I went, oh, I know exactly who that was, and I know exactly what that was. And that was Odin. Mm-hmm. That was Odin claiming me. Yeah. So at that point, I was like, yep, 100%, it's Norse. That is my calling.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned paganism. When did you figure that out? When did you find out about paganism, and how did you realize you were a pagan?
So I was raised Catholic, and my family still is. But it was in college, in my early days of the SCA and my later days of college overlapped, and hanging out with some friends who were pagan. And so they introduced me to things like a pagan circle. But to be honest, I always wanted to have the faith that I could see in other people, my Catholic family, that I could see their deeply rooted faith, and stuff. And I wanted to have that all of my life. I remember watching stuff and the talk about how they would talk about Jesus and Mary and stuff, and I'd be like, I don't feel that connection. I really don't. I mean, they're there, but I didn't really feel that same connection to the faith and everything. And it was when I started going to these just general pagan circles that I started to feel more of that connection. And I think it's because it was more natural, more nature oriented, and that felt more real to me than these ideas that people have of God and everything.
The concept mind.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, could you tell us more about paganism and what it is and things about it? Tell us some information, since you're our first full-blown pagan. Even though we're forms of pagans, that's tell us about that. What that is. Tell us about it.
Well, paganism is going to be different for everybody. It's if you go into the root of the actual meaning of the word, it's just a pantheon. So you have many gods and goddesses rather than a monotheist, which is one god or goddess, depending. And most people with the monotheism are familiar with the Christian, Judaic, or Islamic faiths, those of being the main monotheistic. So you can be pagan and be Hindu, for example, because they have many gods and goddesses, right? Or you can have Egyptian gods and goddesses that, are more of your connection. In my case, it's Norse. There are people who would do more of the Celtic gods and goddesses. And a lot of that comes out of, you'll see that in the old stories, the myths and legends and everything. A lot of that comes out of that. In the Norse world, it's the Eddas and the sagas. You hear a lot of the gods and goddesses mentioned there. So everybody's practice is going to be different. There are some actual pagan groups out there that have their own rituals set up. The ADF is the Druid group that I've done.
ADF. What's ADF?
I can't see. If you go adf.org, you will see it written. It is Celtic, and I struggle at the pronunciation of it.
I understand. ADF.
Yeah. But that's a national Druid organization, and the local group is Stone Creed Grove, and I met up with them in 2009, and started doing some rituals with them for the big holy days and stuff. And what's nice about them is that they do have the organized ritual setup, that it's set up in a particular order and things they follow, but they change up for the rituals what they do for them. So like, is their concentration going to be Norse? Is it going to be Celtic? Is it going to be Greek? So it doesn't matter. You can be part of the group and have your own personal relationship with different gods and goddesses, and still be included, which is nice.
So a living tradition.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
that's how our tradition is. It's ever evolving.
Yes.
It's a living tradition. And then you mentioned before that, you're pagan, but your family are all Christians or Catholics. Do they accept you? How's that work for you? I know that's a big struggle for a lot of people, including myself in my life. People, how do they treat you or accept you?
I am very fortunate that
Good.
my family, I could sprout horns and my family would still accept me. I credit my mom for that. She's largely been the big influence on creating this family, this sense of family that we have. Even though there were many times we butted heads throughout my entire childhood, one of the things that she really instilled in all of us is that your sisters and brothers, they are the most important things in your life, and you should always, be there for them. So we are, so it doesn't matter if we came out as gay, or if we came out as trans, if we, coming out as pagan, doesn't matter. My family is there, and they say you're still part of our family.
Good. They see beyond all labels. Labels are limits anyways.
Yep.
Yeah.
They actually get it. They understand the vibrations
Yeah.
between the words in their faith, instead of the conceptual part that everyone else is stuck in.
Yeah. Pagan rituals. What kind of pagan rituals do you have, like normal? Like, so for us, we have daily rituals as part of our practice and everything. Do you have like any cool types of self-care rituals, things that include yourself into your spirituality or helping others or healing?
I am one of those pagans. It's like the twice a year pagans and stuff. I don't really have quite a daily ritual that I follow. I do. I'm a very self-reflective person, so I'm always checking in with myself. There was a period where I would wake up and I would come up with 5 things I was grateful for every morning. I've gotten away from that. I need to get back into that.
Gratitude practice.
Yes, I've recognized that. That's something I need to get back into, so I try to think of things. But like, I always like to shower in the morning rather than at night. It's more of a morning thing for me, and I think it's because then there's that connection to the healing water and everything, and that's a great way for me to start out my day so I can put my best face forward.
Especially if it's cold.
Yeah. I'm not ready for cold showers.
Come on, you're ready to go.
I'm dipping my toe in.
Hey, Dave, we were talking about actually doing an ice bath after this podcast today. So if you want to do an ice bath, today's the day.
My mom's birthday is
Oh, darn.
It'll take 5 minutes, Dave. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I am ready for my ice bath. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm ready for it.
Change those words. You got it. Yeah. So you don't have any like standard practices, because that's kind of a common thing for, most people, kind of how we teach is to get into that daily practice. I love gratitude practice. That's a really beautiful thing, because you can start off with those naming 5 things. Those are just concepts. which aren't actually anything. What it is calling in those 5 things and paying attention to the vibration inside. That's that inner reflection, checking in like, oh, what does that feel like? What does my gratitude feel like?
Shifting into the frequency.
Yeah, letting that expand. So you do any sort of healing work or anything like that?
Yes, I
Reiki. I know you said
Reiki.
Reiki. When did you become Reiki attuned?
in 2010.
Uh-huh.
I got my first attunement. I don't remember when I got my second one. Maybe a year after that. And then my third one I got in 2014. And so the Reiki Master attunement I got then.
Mm-hmm.
And
So have you been practicing since, or is it kind of?
it's kind of an off and on thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a lot of it had to do with lots of stuff. So at the time that I got it, it was definitely a part of helpful for my own healing process. That was when somebody who I was very close to had passed. He had died. He had actually taken his own life, and it was a very traumatic life experience to go through all of that. And so having that Reiki Master attunement really helped with the whole healing process too. So, which I mean, I was working on that. I understood everything about it. I was never angry about what had happened. Where a lot of people going through the anger stage with that. With him, I didn't even go through the anger stage. If I was angry at anything, I was angry at the police, because I felt that they kind of somehow pushed him in that direction. That's a story. So that particular person, we had dated, and we had dated for a few months, broke up, then got back together again, and then broke up. Because he struggled with drug addiction, so he taught me so much. One was unconditional love, to help me understand unconditional love. That was definitely a huge part of his purpose of being in my life, because I still loved him, even though we had that struggle with him dealing with the drug addiction. I just asked that he not have it around me. Like, I didn't want to come over if he had it in his house. I didn't want him coming over to my place if he had it in him or on his car. Like, can I just be there with you and not this big old dark presence around you at the same time? So, and which he was largely good at complying with, and it also taught me how not to be codependent in needing to be needed, which is how our relationship started out, because that was his, like, I was open to it, and that was his addictive brain pushing into that codependent relationship. And he's the one who saw that and was like, we can't go there. And, and so he broke that off. And then it was later that we got back together, that I was like, okay, we can't go there. And I know not to go to that level. I will hang back and divert it this way. So I wasn't in that codependent space with him for the second half of our relationship. But it was after we had broken up, I had surgery, and he was there to help me through the surgery, and he got arrested twice a week apart. So once a week apart. And it was for the same thing. And they searched his car, and they found nothing. So the second time that he got pulled over, like a week later, and they searched his car for 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden they find something on the pavement, outside of his car in the snow. And they're like, oh, look what we found. He's like, not claiming that, And so they, they got him for possession and paraphernalia and stuff. So he was looking at felony charges for heroin. And, so he's freaked out that he might have to go to prison for that. I'm like, you didn't have it on you, right? And he's like, no. And in fact, they had searched his car very thoroughly just the week before, and there was nothing. There was nothing that he had done in that week's time. So there's no way that could have been in his car. So we had suspicions that maybe it was planted. So there was a period of time I was very angry with the police for that, because we think he was set up. And that's whole thing. I mean, it's nothing we can do about it now, right? So But so I think that's where I had directed my anger was towards that end of it. But with after that, it was on my birthday. It was May 7th is when he shot himself. May 8th, my birthday, is when he died. So that was a huge healing process. Oh, and then a few days later, we had my review at work, and we came to the mutual conclusion that my work was no longer a good fit for me. So then they're like, how about the end of June? We give you to the end of June. So I lost my job. So I lost a very close person to me and my job pretty much all at the same time. So my entire world just exploded.
Big shift for change.
Yes. Yes.
Because you don't lose anything and you never die. So all
Yeah.
those things are parts of our story that we
Yeah.
get to experience to
Yep.
bring us into our change.
Yeah.
That's good. And then it brought you into, so you have lots of learning that happens through there. So you're learning about, like you just said, I learned how to use Reiki. So that's a good question too. So you're our first Reiki master. Take a moment and explain to people, what is Reiki? How does it work? What does it do? Give us some information about Reiki.
So Reiki is healing energy. The way I feel it and understand it is it's divine love. And when you get the Reiki attunements, it basically opens a channel within you for it to come through you and out. And, usually in your hands, come out to go towards whoever you direct it to or whatever you direct it to. So a lot of people would direct Reiki towards like Mother Earth and stuff, for healing energy. You can do hands-on or from a distance. I've directed Reiki through time because my belief is nothing's impossible.
Right.
So I'm like, time is just a concept that we've created, right?
It's actually a quantum space.
Yeah. So I'm like, why couldn't I just send Reiki to a past life? Because I really believe that with that particular person that we actually had a past life thing we were working on. And so I was like, let's see if I can heal this thing that we had in our past life. And maybe that would help improve our relationship in this life that, we've resolved this so we don't need to relive it again. And so that's what I did. I just sent Reiki to it.
Yep, energy doesn't know time or distance.
Exactly. And he was always so receptive. That was a funny thing. He didn't understand Reiki at all. And I was, and he was talking to me and he's like, oh, my hands really hurt. I've been having these problems. I can't play my guitar. I'm like, well, here. And I put his hand in between mine. And just sitting there talking to him, and I'm like, do, just, not paying any attention. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, his eyes just got super big. He's like, my hand doesn't hurt. Like, yeah, that's the best way to explain Reiki is to just,
Experience it.
Yep. Be open to receive it. But it's divine love going through me and into the person that I direct it to. And what my first Reiki master said was he likes to start every session with, may we both be blessed by this experience. And that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like a blessing to be able to give Reiki, to be able to receive Reiki. It's very much a blessing.
So many names for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Reiki means universal energy.
Yeah.
So you're bringing in that universal energy, and you call it love, you call it anything, you can call it any kind of word you want because it's a frequency. It's a frequency of consciousness in which we share. We just call it something different, like per se in our tradition. We don't always channel; we direct, so we can move energy without moving it through the nervous system. So there's many different ways. I work with a lot of Reiki practitioners, helping them transition from one level of energy awareness to the next, because there's so many, and then there's many beyond that. I continue to try to learn as much as I can about living energy, about this cosmic energy in which we are part of. We are, and it is a blessing for all of us. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was right at the time that I got that attunement. Ire, who is a Norse healing goddess, but also Kuan Yin. Like I felt a lot of their energy. They might be very much one and the same.
It's all one.
Yeah.
To you too.
But Kuan Yin being compassion. And let me tell you that when you were working on helping somebody to heal, because Reiki's just another tool in the box, right? Really, we all choose to heal or not heal. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all have our lives we have to live, and not the lessons, but the experiences we're supposed to have in order to grow and expand, right? And so sometimes we choose not to heal for a particular reason, whatever that is.
Not done suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the answer. I'm not done suffering.
Yeah. But that's how you figure out what you do want, right? You experience more of what you don't want to get to where you do want. So it was a lot of compassion with that particular ex-boyfriend, in order, and that was something he pointed out to me. He had said, he told me he was pretty sure that receiving Reiki for me helped save his life, because there was a period of time where he was going cold turkey that he probably would have gone out and overdosed on purpose. So having that Reiki helped him not experience the symptoms as much. And so, while he did feel sick, he didn't feel sick. And so he was able to not go out and stay home and just work his way through the sickness. So, yeah, and that was one of the things he said, when I helped him through all of this, he's like, I never felt judged by you. You have much compassion.
Good. Where do you use Reiki in your life now? How does it adapt to your life now? And do you work with anybody? Are you using it? What's going on? What do you do now?
I haven't been doing a lot with it. There have been a lot of life things that I think I needed to, like we said about the contrast, right? I needed to experience some contrast and mix and mingle in that end of things in order to figure out what exactly I wanted to do and where I want to go. I am just now starting to return back to these healing practices. So it's more just personal Reiki on myself. I've had a couple of people say they would like to get more, get the Reiki attunements and stuff. And so there will probably come a time when I'll get back into that so I could help people get their attunements and teach, be that teacher. It's just, I have to get my practice back up again.
Oh, yeah, it's the practice. A1.
Yep.
That's the thing. We're big about trying to change and make a more beautiful world. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a huge part of it. There's always Reiki with nature. I did that to a sage plant once. It was amazing what happened. I had a roommate. We had planted stuff in our yard, and the roommate came out and was like, "Oh, I will help," and pulled some weeds, and then pulled up one of the plants that I had just planted, and it was my sage plant. I love sage. And I'm like, "You just pulled the sage plant out of the ground." He's like, "Oh." And then he walked back in the house. I'm like, let's see if I can get this to, be okay. And I replanted the sage plant, and I gave it a ton of Reiki, and I was like, okay, nature spirits, do your thing. And by the end of that growing season, I had a sage bush. It was the only sage plant that took, and it was literally, it was huge. I had this huge bush. I was giving clippings of it away to people, like, here, have some sage, I had so much sage. I'm really sad I moved away from that place, because who knows if that plant's still there. They might have been like, what's this crazy plant?
Now it's a sage tree.
Right?
Or many bushes.
Pretty much.
Yeah, sage is wonderful medicine.
Yeah, what do you do with it?
Burn it.
Yeah, that's the best thing to do.
This was the...
Good in food, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was the food sage. It wasn't the... Because I think white sage is the burning sage. Is that what that one is? But this is more
There's
the...
desert sage, white sage. There's several different kinds. I would imagine you could burn them all, no?
You probably could.
Find out.
Yeah.
Get a lighter. Good. So what about? So we met you here. I met you here through the Ministry of Shamanic healing and integration. And what we started off as is the Ohio Psychedelic Society. So we kind of have lots of talks and interactions and integrations with plant medicine. What's your history with plant medicine? What do you know about plant medicine?
I've actually tried shrooms. I haven't done marijuana. Largely because I keep ending up in jobs at drug tests. So
Probably mostly because it doesn't exist, because marijuana was a word devised by the government. She likes to be called Mother Sister Cannabis, okay? Yeah. Yeah, so you don't have any history with cannabis?
no,
But you do with psilocybin?
yeah.
Okay, how'd that go? Tell us about your experience.
The first few times I did it, I didn't really get much out of it, and I think it was largely just the setting. It was a party. The first few times, and so people it was just too much,
Right.
And so there was one time I did it, and it was more meditative. We were listening to the right kind of music. It was a quieter environment, and we were just hanging and chilling. And then I was like, oh, this is what everybody is trying to get out of this, like the feeling, just the way. It wasn't just relaxed. There was a lot of joy involved, and it felt like a loving embrace, and so I was like, oh, now I understand why people like doing this, I didn't really have a lot of really spectacular visuals or anything like that. I mean, I saw some interesting things, but it was just
How big was your dose?
it was in a candy bar. I had 7 squares, I think. I don't know.
That doesn't tell me anything. Jeez.
Is it the full candy bar?
Yeah. So yeah. So you're talking about like a chocolate bar.
Yeah, those are usually like 3.5 to 4 grams.
If you eat the whole bar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you eat the whole bar.
I did not eat the whole bar. It was just over half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, it's kind of a small dose. You won't
Yeah.
have a lot of visuals
Yeah.
there.
But it was. I mean, I could
But you'll feel a connection
feel
to
it.
the earth. That's for sure, and to the medicine.
Yeah, and that was definitely a needy thing. I noticed because this, this was a high anxiety time in my life too. I noticed a huge reduction in anxiety. It was like, oh my God, there was such a relief, that to let go. So I'm like, I can see why people microdose this. That could be a great anti-anxiety medication for some people.
Yeah, it just shifts your reality a little bit. Up
If it's
your
used properly.
frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest benefit's always the hemispherical syncing of the brain, the left and right hemispheres talking to each other. Parts of your brain getting blood and cerebral spinal fluid that normally don't. Those are some of the big benefits of psilocybin and other psychedelics.
Creates neuroplasticity, new connections.
New connections. That must be fed through practice.
Yeah.
Through your practice, yeah.
I've tried LSD. The setting that I did it in was intentionally to be, again, more meditative. I wanted to continue on an earlier meditation, and so I'm like, let's try something. The only problem was I did it alone, so. After a while, you're kind of like, I'm still tripping, and I'm alone, and I'm doing this. There's nothing, and so then how do you manage that? I felt a lot of tension too. Like it took a long time for me to release, and it was really driving me crazy. I was just like,
That's its job. It's pulling forward what's not in alignment.
yeah.
And you're never alone. That's what you use with the medicine is you take yourself into the awareness, you take yourself into your slow breathing, and you open yourself up, and you're not alone. You're surrounded by all sorts
You
of
are
light.
one.
Yeah. That's how the medicine works. But that's why it's important too, like with these medicines, just like how you described at first, like, well, I took these mushrooms in a party setting. Yeah, you're not going to get much out of it that way. Because it's not what they're really designed for. These are teachers. They're meant to be for teaching connection. So you get a lot more out of it when you're going into an intention like that. But just like you said with the LSD, going into that with that intention, more of it to be meditative, accepting everything that arises, accepting that anxiety as it rises. The anxiety rises because it teaches us how to handle it. One of the most profound experiences I ever had was on 3 very powerful hits of LSD, and what I could only describe it as I could sense all at once every possible human emotion, or all emotions of every human in the world.
Wow.
So I could feel everything from the deepest sadness and pain and anguish and fear all the way to the highest feelings of ecstatic elation and everything in between. And all I could do was sit there and smile. And I looked at Mary, and she's looking at me, how you doing? I'm like, I know I'm smiling, but this is all I know how to do right now.
Right.
And I started to explain. And then, so I stopped trying to like go around it, and I started going into it. And what it was showing me is to become acceptant. I was accepting the situation as it is in the moment, knowing that it's not going to stay this way. And as soon as that started to happen, that started to open me right up. Started to slow everything down. I started to be a lot happier. It's like the light turned on again. And that's the thing. I don't look at things like people say, I've had a bad trip. I will fully disagree with that. These trips that are challenging are our greatest medicine because they're showing us where we need to let go. That's what all things in life are, all symptoms. Symptoms are messengers teaching us how to, basically take control of these parts of our mind that are disempowering. Because we put ourselves in cycles of thought that are disempowering, and these things can help us kind of move past those.
Helps us let go of what does not serve us. But I mean, when you're not letting go, you're just disagreeing with your own reality, and it's just get stuck in a loop.
The release I had from that was incredible.
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was crying and laughing at the same time.
Yeah. Clapping.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
start crying
Many
and the
times.
tears are pouring, and then I'm like, oh, that's it. That's exactly what you needed. And
That's
then I
it.
start laughing. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that was it. Was that just one experience? Have you had other experiences with LSD?
No, that was it. I had done a very tiny little bit before where there was really not a lot. Like I could see some visuals, like so the place where I live, there's a lot because everybody there is pagan, and we bring in our own gods and goddesses and ancestors and everything. There's a lot of activity in my house, and so I notice a little bit now and then, but like I really noticed at that one time that I took like a quarter. I took a quarter of a tab. And I was just like, wow, I'm just really distracted because how do people who see this stuff all the time exist? Because like this is so distracting, seeing all these little things moving around. And
We get used to it.
Yeah. you get used to
Apparently.
Yeah, I'm
it.
very used to it. People ask me that all the time. Like, how do you handle that? Like, I don't know. How do you handle the way you see the world? Like, it's not like, I guess it would be disturbing if it just turned on,
Yeah.
like how it does when you take the medication. Like, so I'm at a point now, even if I take psychedelics, the visual, I can't tell a difference. The visuals don't get better or more, anything like that. The only thing I notice is how I feel the vibration inside of me. I'll become aware of that, and then I can become aware of how my mind is moving or how it's processing information. But other than that, I can't tell any difference anymore when I take psychedelics. It's no different. My life's already psychedelic. But that is a common question that people ask. Like, people that see energy, how do you handle that? I don't know. It's just normal to me. And you can kind of turn it on and off too. You can it's a focus thing. It's a way that I call it softening the gaze. Like, if I have you say, look at the wall, and I'll tell you to essentially let your vision go blurry, you become aware of the entire peripheral field of vision, but nothing's focused. So I can tell Dave's there. I'm looking through this thing that I can tell he's there. But what I really see is all the energy of the room, this field of energy that's him, this field of energy that's you, my field. I can see all this living, moving fractals and pieces. But then what happens, I come back and I'm focusing and I see, oh, there's Dave again. There's a man.
See all the energy coming off his arms as he was moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just moving around his popo.
Popo.
Yeah, you're just looking through things instead of at them.
Yeah, that's just a hard thing to develop.
Those magic eyes from back in the day, those are good training.
Yeah. Magic eyes? Tell us about magic eyes.
It's a kind of a distorted picture, and you look through it, and you start close to your face and pull it away, and a 3D image emerges.
Yeah, I know what those are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic eyes.
I'm still working on that, being able to see. I feel.
That's where it starts.
Yep. I've always been very good at feeling people out, like all my life. That's how I was able to tell. My mom said when I was a toddler, my uncle got married. He's my godfather. He got married. And I was supposed to be part of the wedding party. I think it was like the flower girl or something. And so I'm there with my aunt who is getting in her bridal gown and dealing with her family. And there was some fight that somebody had, because that's what happens at weddings. People get stressed out and they start fighting and stuff. And it was like a no big deal fight. This is what the family did. But I just got overwhelmed. My mom said I got overwhelmed by all the anger and stuff that was coming out, the tension and everything. And she saw my eyes get really big and my thumb went on my mouth. And that was it, you know. And she's like, nope, she's not going to do it. And sure enough, I went and walked down that aisle. You know, I was terrified at that point. My mom was part of the wedding party, so she was already down that aisle. And so, yeah, I wasn't gonna walk down that aisle after that. And so I wasn't in any of the wedding party pictures, nothing. But I had a pretty little dress that matched, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I've always been very good at picking up on emotional vibrations of people. So that's generally what I do. Like when I'm doing Reiki, it's just like I just close my eyes and just feel, because that way I can get out of the current, like the world as my eyes want to see it, and let my body feel it.
Mm-hmm. That's how I would describe it as well. Yeah. Spiritual vision opens up through practice. That's that daily practice thing I asked you about to begin. That must be something that's supposed to show up into your reality, I assume.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It comes with the daily practice and slowly peeling away some of the unresolved emotional data that kind of blocks the flow of light. I didn't know I could see until another guy showed up and kind of helped me understand. Another shaman showed up, and he was able to see. You could see that my third eye is open. Just like I see yours, you do see. You just don't know you see. Mm-hmm. So it's training the mind to accept that what we call the imagination isn't not real. Mm. So we have these preconceived ideas that have been planted into us that it's just your imagination. Well, it isn't just your imagination. It's living energy. And in the deeper sense, it's unmanifested light. So this is how, at the deepest level, how we manifest, is connecting using that imagination. That's what we do. We call it visualization. Visualize your highest possible self, or create an energy ball in your hands. You'll feel it in your hands, and then creating with your mind, allowing yourself to see. And as you start to work with that, it starts to open up little by little by little. But it takes that acceptance in the mind that my imagination is living energy too. And then it opens up. It's a cool trick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How did your vision open?
Psychedelics.
Yeah, just started to happen on its own?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I absolutely, I nurtured it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just kind of gradually grew and grew and grew. And I mean, once things really started happening, it started compounding on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And then it, just fully opened.
Yeah, it doesn't stop growing. So
no.
it keeps going as we straighten out our signal.
I live in
keeps
2 realities at once, just like you. So it's.
Well, I'm glad we're in this one.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess what we would ask you is there anything you would like to promote, plug, anything like that? This is a good platform for that, for some of the things, people you work with, communities maybe you're connected with.
Goodness, I'm not really connected to my Reiki master, Sacred Soul Reiki. She's out in Rocky River. Mm-hmm. Once a month she does angel meditations, and she does them online on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And so that they're really wonderful experiences to do the angel meditations. Actually, I think it's tonight.
What is an angel meditation?
So she speaks to the angels, mm-hmm. And she's kind of a universalist, you mm-hmm. know. So everything, Mother Mary and Jesus as well, if they're needed for the particular meditation. But it's a guided meditation, and so she brings in specific archangels that are good for whatever the focus is on the meditation. So this particular one, like I said, that I think is tonight, is bringing in the male ancestors in our lives to help guide us and, whatever healing and relationship stuff that we need to work on to be a part of that as well. So she'll have specific archangels that she brings in for those purposes. And like I said, it's a guided meditation. So you do the relaxation and the breathing, and then, talks us through what you're going through, taking you up into quantum and doing.
It's like a shamanic journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I can do both, remain physically present and be a part of the meditation. And sometimes I'm just like, and there's like, all of a sudden I'm hearing her saying, and you're coming back into your awareness of your body. And I'm like, well.
Yeah, those are the best ones.
Yeah.
That's how you know you
that's-
skipped right out into theta and deeper.
Yeah.
That's what happens when I do his breath work. Five, 6 breaths, I'm gone.
Bye. I'll sometimes see him out of his body walking around, checking things out.
Yeah, but like when I do that, I have no idea what happened in the meditation.
That's
I'm like,
totally normal.
Yeah.
Most people don't.
Yeah.
Not everyone does.
Yeah.
That's another one of those things that through practice, you start to have more awareness. It starts to open up. It's almost like we were just kind of saying this idea of bilocation. We can be aware of more than one reality at once. It's some sort of gift that all humans have. And opens up there. So angel meditations, and that's so is that
Sacred
open to
soul.
other people? Is that open?
Yeah. She's, like I said, she's on Facebook. So she creates a Facebook event, and so you can get into it from there. Sacred Soul Reiki. If there's somebody who lives and breathes Reiki and her daily practice, it is 100% her. She gives Reiki to her food, and everything.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
for me too.
Yeah.
Calling
That's
in the
a-
medicine.
I just don't call it Reiki.
Yeah.
That's all. That's just a
Yeah.
word I don't
But
use.
it's just like everything, everything. She's like, oh, I'll send Reiki to it.
We call it kausai in our tradition. This means manifested light energy. And then we also work with something called kanchai, which is unmanifested light. That's how we bring in unmanifested light and create creation. So there's some different levels of information and energy in which we can move into our inner space.
My personal connection, I'm on Instagram as Jennifer Lynn Anderson Actor. I think I have actor, not actress, but you'll see my face because I have that as my picture. It's public. And on Facebook as Jennifer Lynn Anderson. So yeah, I can always direct people to those angel meditations. They're perfectly amazing, and like I said, she's an amazing teacher as well. So
Good.
yeah.
I like that. The acting, what kind of things have you done? Any commercials or anything? Can anybody find you anywhere?
On YouTube, actually.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Not commercials. I've been in short films and in feature films. A lot of the short films I was in was competition for the 48-hour film festival, and that's where you make a film in 48 hours. And so on White Midnight Films, there's a number of short films that I'm in. My friend Scott Brocious is the person behind White Midnight Films. And there's a feature film that he made I'm in. 2, actually. Vial and Chains of Redemption. And recently I was a film I was in was actually at the Horror Hotel Festival, and Leviticus was the name of that film. So that's still in the film circuit, the film festival circuit, so it's not available anywhere yet. But I was actually nominated for Best Actress for that one.
Awesome.
Yeah, and apparently that film won a lot of awards at that film festival too, which is also very awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. There's something else. There's one other thing that came through as we were sitting here. I have an energy coming through, and it's asking me to ask you to talk about Odin.
Like my relationship with Odin.
Hey, whatever comes through. Yeah, I don't. It didn't say specifically. It said for me to ask you about Odin. So I'm asking you about Odin.
Can I swear?
The All Father. Yeah.
Can I swear?
Yeah.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, those of us who have a close personal relationship with Odin understand that Odin can be an asshole. Everybody gets this very reverential thing. And believe me, I am very reverent to him. I do respect him. But he's also kind of an asshole. You know? And it's because he understands how to push us.
That's why I was just going to say,
out of the
he
comfort
just
zone.
pushes. He just teaches us how to go beyond.
Yes. And every time that he pops into a vision, I'm like, oh, it's going to be hard, isn't it? You know, like, I know. I'm like, oh.
I'm always excited. Like, yes, this is going to be a good one. I'm dining in Valhalla tonight.
I mean, it's one of those things where you're just kind of like, here we go again.
Yeah.
And then you just jump into it. You know? But it's, you just know. You're like, oh, here it is.
Yeah. It's
He
like getting
also-
in that cold shower. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably going to be him that's pushing me into it.
Yeah,
let me tell
that's
you.
probably right. Yep, you're getting the nod.
Because I'm so resistant. And that's the thing. I am very well grounded. I'm a Taurus. I'm just like, I am earth. I am grounded. And so, you know, change is something I really have to be pushed into. You know, I mean, I've gotten very flexible as I've gotten older. In work situations and stuff, I'm like, oh, this is what's happening now. Okay. And just learn to live with it. But there are certain things where I would just like dig my heels in so deep. I'm like, no, you are not pushing me in that direction. And then eventually I go anyway. You know, like it's more I have to decide. Like I will do this on my own time because I decided that. You know.
Yeah.
Even though I know
Acceptance.
yeah, but even though I know it's Odin going in the back, going, yeah, sure, whatever you say. You know? He comes with Loki. They are together. So when you are making offerings to Odin, you always make offerings to Loki. You know, because he would give his offering, his drink to Loki. And a lot of people who are getting into the Norse practice don't quite understand that, but they work together. You know, that's part of it because Loki is the he's the change god, right? You know, he's the one that the trickster in a lot of cases, but he keeps everybody honest in his sort of way. You know, and the stories with Balder. When Frigg saw that that her son was going to die, she went around and asked everything, every creature, every plant, everything, not to harm her son, except for the mistletoe, I think it is, and you know, because it was too young and she felt that it wouldn't do any harm and stuff. And so then we see this thing where everybody's making sport of trying to kill him in some various fashion, and everything just bounces off him because everything promised they wouldn't harm him. And Loki sees this and he realizes this is against nature. You know, this is what's supposed to happen, that he is supposed to die. You cannot go against this nature. So he disguised himself and managed to find out what one thing on this planet hadn't made that agreement. Found that out, fashioned a dart out of it, and then gave it to the blind god. And the blind god threw it, and it went straight and true and killed him. You know, so he's the one who puts things back to right, because you can't take things out of the natural order. So that's why the two of them work together. And he was necessary because Odin wasn't going against his wife, and he wasn't going to be interested in trying to kill his son either. You know, so it had to be Loki. Yeah. So sometimes he pops into my experience as well. Yeah. And it's like he's just like, hey, I'm here.
The Norse Judas.
That's one way to say it. The other thing that came through is do you know any Norse prayers?
So I've never been one to really memorize prayers, even when I was a Catholic. I only memorized them because I had to. And then when I didn't have to know it anymore, I don't. So I don't. I think because I am more prayers of appreciation rather than prayers of supplication. So it's more, I will come up with something in the moment of being very grateful for whatever is going. Like today, I was very grateful for what happened at my work, and signing the papers and making it official that I am moving into a different thing, and how wonderful it is that the universe conspired that I met a particular person who worked for this company and that I happened to know him at the time when a job position opened up at this company, and happened to catch his post on Facebook when he posted that job position was open. And so he worked me to get in by talking to the boss and everything. Like, just all the pieces just fell into place in perfect alignment, because that's how it works, right? And I was just wrapped up in that gratitude and appreciation today, and just, and that's just what it was. It was just like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah, I was just asking because, like, kind of the way we use prayers is more like direction and calling in medicine. So I'll start talking in Quechua, and what I'm doing is I'm reaching out into a quantum packet or living part of energy and calling it here and calling it here and calling it here. That's kind of, I just didn't know if there's some way that when you connect with your guidance, with your spirits, how you call in the medicine to you, how you bring it into you, or is it just with your intention?
It is with my intention. I think because, like I said, it was always very, very much on the vibrational level of reaching out.
Well, yeah, words are vibration too. That's why we use
Yes.
Quechua, because of that vibrational quality. It's an ancient way to access calling in frequency, bringing it here. You need the intention, and it's almost like a magic word. You're using this verbal, it sounds, to us it sounds like a word, but it's just a sound or a frequency. Goes out, it grabs, it connects to a frequency and pulls the frequency back to you.
I think it may be because, even though I always have been a very verbal, I learned language at a very young age. Those of us who are neurodivergent on the spectrum.
Hi.
Yeah,
Yep.
on the spectrum. I mean, you see that, because you'll have the wide range of the spectrum, right? And some people on the spectrum are not very verbal. And I think while I did learn language and stuff, I learned that there's a lot that can be hidden in language that I don't understand, but I understand vibration. And so I think when I started developing my spiritual practice, it was less about the words I was using and more about the feeling and just visualizing how I was directing
It's
it.
always the way.
Yeah.
Because otherwise language is a limit.
Yep.
So I got one more question for you. If this was the platform for you to give one message to the world, what would that be? What message would you give to the world?
Always reach for that better feeling thought that you are. There's always the better feeling thought. It's like that gratitude experience that I had. It was just diving into oh, well, because this happened, then this happened, because this happened, then this happened, this happened. And so each thing was one better than the other, and it just will pull you in that direction. And it's amazing how fast it will take you when you start doing that. You're just ramping up and up and up and up and up, and it's like going downhill, but you're going uphill at the same time.
It has momentum.
Yeah, the momentum. Yeah, like when you're rushing downhill on a roller coaster, except that instead of going down in your emotions, you're actually going up into your emotions. Yeah, but that fast, you just feel everything taking over, and the speed of it. It's amazing.
Get in the flow.
Yeah. So
Get
always
out
always
of the
reach for
know
that
and
better.
into the flow. Welcome. Get out of the know and into the flow. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure sitting down and learning about you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we look forward to your loving connection with us at Moshi, and we have those. How often do we have Moshi meetings, David?
Every Sunday at we hold the meetings at Sacred Waters Kava Bar in North Olmsted, around 1:30, 2 p.m. We usually chat for a little bit.
We're on
before we
shaman
start.
time, so we're
Yes.
not like tick-tock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's wonderful medicine. It's just a great group of people. Very conscious community, and we're just creating systemic healing.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Check out the website, moshilove.org.
Yes, there's a link to our membership on there. We're still trying to manifest abundance to open our first of many healing centers. So if you'd like to get involved, check out the website, and there's plenty of information in there, and come to a meeting.
Yeah, come check
Love
it out.
to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Meetings are great.
Yeah. Well, I love you both so much, and this
Love
has
you
been
too.
a
Love you.
fantastic voyage into the world of communication and love. I love you guys.
Yes, love you too.
Love you.
I want to thank you all so much. Have a beautiful day.
This has been the Quantum Shamans presented by Moshe with David and Anthony. We look forward to seeing you next week for more insight into who you are and your place in the universe.